What's up guys, Manu here, welcome back to the channel. Yes, my thumbnail says modern Hondas suck, and this video is about that, but this is going to be an interactive video because I want your thoughts and opinions also on this subject matter, and this will require some reflecting on your part, and I want you to post your comments in the comment section below. Honda has been very boring for the past 10 to 12 years. Nothing really exciting came out in the past decade, well, except for a couple of new cool ADVs like the Africa Twin, the XADV scooter, and a bunch of small street bikes, but nothing really, really groundbreaking, nothing really super amazing. Reflect on the past 10 to 12 years, of if you have been around, if you have been into motorcycles for as long as I have been, think of the past 10 to 12 years about Honda's lineup, all right, from 2010 to now. Try to reflect on those bikes that you like. If you have been around motorcycles as long as I have, if you have experienced Honda from the 70s to the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, think about those bikes and compare those bikes to the modern ones and see which one is the best. So I also have a list of modern Hondas from that decade that I find boring. They were hyped up, but it turns out to be they're boring. And I'm going to compare them to three bikes from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, and we'll see which is better and which is, why the older bikes are way more entertaining than the modern ones. So I'm just gonna put a B-roll of a previous ride over here so that you don't have to stare at my face the whole time. Right, so the first modern Honda that we're gonna be talking about and comparing it to an older Honda is the Honda CRF 250 and 300L. Right? I made a video about that bike and why it's such an awesome motorcycle for beginners, for dual sporting, and for converting into a supermoto. So yeah, that video did really well, and I'm proud of that. And my thoughts and opinions about that bike have been generally positive. If you look at the CRF 250 and 300L, despite it being so compliant, so reliable, and has an amazing aftermarket support, there's one thing that I dislike about the bike. Why do I have to spend so much money to make it perform like a 1988 Honda XR250? Oh, you might be saying, because you're a CRF fanboy, you have a CRF yourself, and you can say, oh, why are you complaining a brand new bike to this vintage piece of shit XR250? That's where you're wrong. Because engine wise, the engine alone of an XR250 produces more horsepower, more torque, and it delivers the power in such a way that it is very instantaneous and very useful, and the torque is down in the lower rev range. As compared to the CRF 250 and the 300, the power is very mellow. Yeah, check the specs, try to compare the specs, go ahead, you have Google over there, compare engine performance, CRF 250, XR 250. You can go to the XR 250. Well, it's basically a 40-year-old motorcycle as of today, and it came out in the early 80s and it ended production sometime in the mid of 2000s. Okay, RIP XR. So yeah, do your research and you'll find out that the XR250 has a rich history. It is a great performing motorcycle, and in fact a lot of people still go for that bike despite it being so old, because it is reliable, it performs really well, it handles great, and well, of course it has some downsides, like it only has like an electric start, the styling is very dated, and you get in it. CRF is superior in terms of components, styling alone, new metallurgy, better suspension, better brakes. But how come the new CRF feels really bland compared to the XR250? So that is my big question. In short, the XR250 has character, while the CRF 250 doesn't have that, sad to say. And in order for me to achieve the level of performance and character that a stock XR250 from the 80s, delivers, the power, again, the feeling, the sensation that I have to spend a ton of money to make the CRF feel that way, which is why it's boring. Anyway, I totally understand. The aftermarket support is crazy. But maybe that's because there's a huge aftermarket for the CRF because it is meant to be built on. It's just kind of sad to think that a modern bike like that, which costs so much with all these modern tech, can still be outrun by an old bike from the 80s and so on, from the 80s. All right, second bike on the list is the CRF 1000L Africa Twin. Yes, I made a review about that bike a long time ago, probably like one of my first reviews, motorcycle reviews on this channel. And it is an awesome bike. It does the job really well. It is an awesome tourer. It can perform on rough roads. You can probably travel the world. You go on a date, you use it as a commuter bike if that's your thing. And I'm all praises for the CRF 1000L Africa Twin. But then again, despite it being so perfect, so modern, very compliant, that's a problem. It's so perfect already to the point that it is boring. It has no personality. And in fact, the older Africa Twin, the XRV 750, which we have in the garage, I have not featured that bike yet. It's been in a long time. Well, I did, in one of my earlier videos. Go check it out. That bike, the older Africa Twin, has more personality than the new one. When the new Africa Twin came out, everybody was so excited because they were saying, "Oh, the legend is back! The Desert King, the Africa Twin, the legend, the ultimate off-road adventure rally, whatchamacallit, enduro is back." And then here comes this, and Honda has these, pro riders, showing off, making the Africa Twin fly, drift in and out of corners, and so on and so forth. And everybody was so hyped up because, oh wow, if I'm gonna have an Africa Twin 1000, I'll be riding like that guy. I'm gonna be riding like Danny Pedrosa or that other dude. So you buy it, you ride it, and then, okay, it's fast, it's compliant, brakes nice, the handle's nice, has luggage, crazy aftermarket support as well, but it has no personality. In fact, my dad, who owns that bike, told me, let's sell this bike because I'm bored of it. You see that? And he would rather ride his older Africa Twin, the old XRV 750. It is a 99 model, is the RD07. He prefers to ride that. And he said to me, the old bike has more personality. It is more entertaining for me because the power is there. It is just right. It may not be as fast as the new one, but it is more entertaining than that bike. It feels torquey. It feels revvy. It has an awesome V-twin noise. It's an iconic design. I also have ridden it, way before my channel. I used to use that for work, also on longer trips, and people that have seen me ride this bike would always comment on the bike and say, "Bro, you have a legend. Where did you get that?" So in short, it has that cool factor. Well, the new one, people will see it, oh, Africa Twin, that's it. While the old one would say, "Oh bro, you have an awesome bike." See my point? New one has no character. The old one is oozing with style, heritage, and it's a legend. All right, third modern Honda that is boring. Well, this is a cruiser. The most recent cruiser that Honda has ever produced is the Rebel 1100, which is basically, has the same engine as the Africa Twin 1000 and 1100. And yeah, again, bike is, flawless in terms of performance, it's fast, it has all those fancy doodads and electronics, and it is a functional motorcycle. But if you look at it for, you know, just the way it looks and its performance numbers, there's nothing much to talk about. It doesn't look nice. It looks like a Rebel 500, even though if it's an 1100, there's nothing special about it, to be honest with you. I'm sure the power is basically the same as the Africa Twin 1000 or 1100, but it doesn't have the cool factor that Honda used to put in the bikes that they sold in the 2000s or 90s. Like we've had like a Shadow 1100 Spirit, and I currently have a VTX 1800. Now these bikes have history, they have heritage, they're legendary, you know. In fact, you know, a lot of people like these bikes so much to the point that they would rather ride these bikes than, you know, their Harley Davidsons or the newer cruisers. They're still there. Sad to say, Honda did not capitalize on that market, because if they still, you know, sold the Shadow, even the 750, or they really promoted that bike and then put the prices down, I tell you, you know, those bikes are fun. You know, those are yeah, Japanese cruiser. Whoa, it's a Harley poser, whatever, man. Those bikes are an absolute blast to ride. In my opinion, I've ridden an 1100, I've ridden a 750. I currently am riding a VTX 1800. I've ridden it all over the island of Cebu, and it is mind-numbing. Like the level of acceleration that 1800cc liquid-cooled motor, you know, produces. It's like ripping your arms off. The moment you twist the throttle, your soul is left behind. Yeah, it doesn't corner, but it attracts attention. It is an awesome looking cruiser with all that red, that chrome. Very stylish, very iconic, very identifiable, especially if you are a cruiser guy who likes power cruisers. VTX 1800, Shadow 1100 maybe. Yeah, probably even the Shadow 750. Shadow 750 Ace is beautiful. If you ride a Honda Rebel 1100 around town, people will just think it's just another 500. Yeah, and the performance, the way it delivers the horsepower, the acceleration, it's nothing. It's boring, it's lifeless, it's ew, nothing. So those are just the three bikes, and I'm comparing them to older bikes. You know, there are bikes from Honda, modern Hondas, that are awesome, like the CB650R. What else? Of course, the Fireblades, the Honda Cubs, the Apes, the revival of the Honda Monkey. Oh, those are cool bikes. You know, those bikes have character. They're fun. Although yeah, they're small bikes, but they're fun to ride around. I've never ridden any of those though, but I totally understand the hype about those bikes, and I can tell, you know, the level of enjoyment that you get with those kinds of motorcycles. Now there is a modern Honda that I want to get my hands on. I want to test ride it and see for myself what is the hype, you know, about this bike, and why is it at the same time people hate it. It is the Honda XADV 750, and I'm very curious about that bike. It has the same engine as the Honda NC 750X, you know, which I made a video about. I reviewed it, and then I sold it like a year ago or 2 years ago. Yeah, go check out that video. Yeah, I'm curious how it handles, how it feels, you know, an off-road scooter, which is weird, right? All right, that's it for this video. And remember, reflect on the past 12 years. What has Honda produced? What bike do you think is boring? Compare it to an older Honda from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Post your opinions, your thoughts, whatever. Anyway, see you in the next video. Bye.